Hello students, Miss Ward back with our video on the skeletal systems. So I wanted to go ahead and just introduce you guys to the definition for the skeletal system or the function of the skeletal system. Here you should see this is probably just a review from the information you've covered in elementary school, but just to remind you, the skeletal system is the system that's responsible for two things in the human body. That's support as well as protection. Now, often students get confused and they think, oh, a skeleton, it must be responsible for movement. Remember, the skeletal system is there for support and protection. Along with the muscular system, the skeletal system will provide movement, but cannot move without having those muscles in place. So one question may be, exactly how many bones are in this skeleton I'm looking at right here? And the answer is about 206. We say 206 because, or about 206, because from person to person that can vary a little bit because the small bones in hands and feet can change from person to person, but on average it's 206 bones. And so if I look at this picture and I wonder, well, how many bones are in each part of this body? Let's go ahead and look at it. I really want to draw your attention to talk about some of the most important parts of the skeletal system. So the first is this little thing here. This is called a cranium. You may also hear us refer to this as a skull, but the cranium has 29 bones in it. And the function of the cranium is very, very important, and that is to protect your brain, your eyes, and your ears. And brain, eyes, and the ears. And it's really, really important because you need to have that skeleton there, or the cranium there to help protect that soft tissue that's so important. Obviously, we learned in the nervous system, can't do much without a brain. The next part is right here. This is the spinal column. Sometimes you'll hear this called just the spine, but the spinal column has 26 bones. Okay, and the function of the spinal column is to protect, look at that, we're having a common theme here, is to protect the spinal cord, which you guys know is extremely important in our body. Last but not least, we can look at this little set right here. These are our ribs. And the ribs have a total of 25 bones. And these bones, again, the same theme here, are for protecting the heart and the lungs. Again, vital organs that you cannot live long without or at all without. I also am not going to draw this up here, but I just wanted to point out that we have a couple other places. We have our legs, pelvis, and feet, which have 62. And then we have our arms, our shoulders, and hands, and they have a total of 64. So those should total up to be 206. Okay, let's just keep it moving. I wanted to make sure that everybody understands when you hear the word joint, we are referring to the place where two bones meet. The place where two bones meet. And in that joint, we will find some really, really interesting things. And I want to make sure that you're all aware of these things that you'll find in there. Okay? Part of the skeletal system and part of connective tissue is something called cartilage. And cartilage you find inside on the tips of some bones, so in the joints. Cartilage is a flexible connective tissue. And remember how we talked all about connective tissue. It's a flexible connective tissue that you will find in certain places in your body. It's going to be, again, but in between the bones, and I'll just write these in here. In between bones, you may find it inside around the vertebrae in the spinal column. You can find it in the ear, the eyes, the nose, and even the bronchial tube. Eyes, I'm sorry. Ear, nose, excuse me. Ear, nose, I got a little excited there. Ear, nose, and even in the bronchial tubes of your inside of your body. Okay, so very good. Keeping it moving. We have two things that you will also find in the joints. One is ligaments. Ligaments are responsible for attaching bone to bone. So bones are connected through ligaments, and the other tendon. These are often confused. Tendons connect muscle to bone. So these are all parts that are kind of important to the skeletal system to keep it connected and working together. Last but not least, and I did not want to take too long with this, I wanted to go over, if you were to actually look at a bone closely, what would you find? And I'm going to do my very best to draw a bone here. So we're going to pretend that this is a femur right here. And we're going to look at it closely. On the very outside of the bone, you will see something called the periosteum. The periosteum is a membrane that covers the outside of the bone. It has the nerves and blood vessels that are there to nourish the bone. Right underneath the periosteum, I have, and this is going to be a very colorful bone, I have something that is my compact bone. And so this is when you look at a skeleton, this is what you're actually seeing, is that compact bone. It is smooth, hard. On the inside of that layer, and again, this is very hard doing drawing, it's easier to see in a picture. Inside of that, I have something that's very spongy looking. So this is inside the green section. Actually, obviously, it's not green in your body, but inside of this, I have my spongy bone, and it's just like it sounds. It's very porous, and it's the inside layer of the bone. So I have my periosteum, which is on the outside membrane that covers my compact bone, and inside of that, I have the spongy bone. On the very inside, and I'm going to use red for a reason, on the very, very most central part of the bone, I have something called bone marrow. And this is really important because this is a huge connection to our circulatory system. The bone marrow is like a thick jelly. It's the very center part of your bones. And the really neat part about it is this is actually where our red blood cells are made in our body, is inside of the bone marrow. So that leads a lot of thoughts and curiosities, because I'm sure you've all heard about bone marrow transplants. But what is the purpose, and why do we have bone marrow transplants? So I'm going to leave that for food for thought so I can keep my video under 8 minutes. Thank you so much for your paying attention, and I will see you tomorrow in class.